Well, today we have Michiana Voice has a great opportunity to be able to talk with Patrick Mangan, and Mr. Mangan is involved with um, a big work, and he's involved also with CCV, but he's in the battle right now with this South Bend City Council. Patrick, could you tell us a little bit about that? And then you had a meeting last night with the City Council that took place, and can you tell us a little bit about what took place there and some of your thoughts on that?
Sure. What's happening right now is, for the sixth time in as many years, we have had an attempt by homosexual activists and pro-homosexual supporters to try to pass a special rights for homosexuals ordinance. And last night was the first reading of that proposed ordinance, and there were a couple of public meetings with the City Council last night where this came up for first reading. But before it ever came up, there was a controversy within the council because apparently longtime sitting councilwoman Karen White, who has in fact opposed this bill in the past, would have it in her committee as the chairman of Personnel and Finance. And reportedly, another member of the council who is supporting the ordinance sought to have that removed from her committee, specifically because she was concerned that the councilwoman might use her religious values to make decisions about her support for or against the ordinance. Apart from the fact that Councilwoman White has been extremely fair, is a very gentle woman, and who is the longest sitting council member at this point. The charge was very inappropriate. It was denied in the meeting, and beyond that, Councilwoman Shea, who's pretty new to the council, made the comment that it's one thing for people of faith to make comments as citizens, but it's another thing altogether for elected officials to use their faith in decision making. And that's just simply a very misguided and very really an absurd notion that elected officials need to keep their faith at the door. That is just absurd. In this country, we all have a right, not only as citizens, but also as elected officials, to vote based on our values and what we believe, and based on conviction, and not based on political expediency. And it is important that the community weigh in on this issue, communicate with Mayor Buttigieg. He can veto this bill if it comes up, so we are asking people to call Mayor Pete Buttigieg, a St. Joe High grad, and ask him to veto this wayward legislation if it does get passed. But we're also asking everyone to contact the City Council, each of the members of the City Council, and we'll make contact information available through your website, so that they let them know that we don't want to have special rights for homosexuals and bisexuals and transgenders that are different from all the other rights that everyone else has. And we don't want to have special rights undermine legitimate constitutional rights. Now, if you give homosexual sexual practices a special status in the law, then it is special rights. It doesn't matter if you're talking about housing or what you're talking about. It is a special right if the basis of the right is invalid. And the basis of awarding rights based on what people do, what aberrant sexual practice they may have, is really a fool's errand. And our position, and the position of many attorneys, is that this bill is unnecessary, it is unfair, it is unjust, it is unconstitutional, and it's unenforceable.
Okay. So what's the, maybe if you could help me out a little bit, some people may not know what's completely in the bill. Can you give us a little rundown on that
What
as
this
well?
bill wants to do is it wants to elevate aberrant sexual practices such as those engaged in homosexuality and put that on par with a person's racial background or their ethnic heritage. And for many of us who've been involved in the civil rights movement, it is an insult, and it is effectively an attempt to hijack the nobility of the civil rights movement to cover aberrant sexuality that people really need to get help with. You know, before we go any further, it is absolutely important that everyone understands that we love, Citizens for Community Value loves, and I love all those who struggle with same-sex attraction. I've had campus ministries at Notre Dame and Vanderbilt University, and we've helped people come out of homosexuality over the last 30 years. And there are a lot of former homosexuals in this town. And so it's important that their voice is added to this public discourse. And it's very important for people to understand that if a person is struggling with same-sex attraction, that is temptation. It's not the way they're orientated. It is simply temptation. And that whether or not you act on it is not your identity. It's either sin or holiness. So there's a choice there every single time. And just because somebody falls into a pattern of sexual sinning or a pattern of sexual addiction, namely homosexual sex acts, it doesn't mean that that is their identity. Our belief is that identity is that we are made in the image and likeness of God. And that's where dignity derives to humanity. So all civil rights, all human rights derive from that reality. And there is no right to homosexuality, as the Pope has pointed out in his writings about this subject.
So, Patrick, what's the next step that you see? And you mentioned getting involved, but one, maybe how does someone get involved? Two, as far as the vote is concerned, and when is the next vote on what the City Council, South Bend, and then also two, some scenarios that may take place that you may see?
Well, there's two things that you can do. One, we'll make available the contact information through your website so that they can contact both the mayor and all of the city council members directly with phone calls, with letters, or with emails. It's important that you weigh in and let the elected officials know how you feel. Even if you're not from South Bend, this is a statewide movement that's trying to pass these ordinances. So we want to make sure that there is a critical response from people in the region who are unhappy with South Bend going in this direction. Second, on March 26th, they are planning to have a committee hearing in the afternoon, probably around 3 o'clock, and then to push for the second and third reading of the ordinance, and then to have a public hearing, and then to have the vote, all on the 26th in 2 weeks. So that means that everybody really needs to come to that council meeting. And before that council meeting, they need to call, write, or email the representatives of the council using the contact information that will be available. And let them know that they are not in favor of extending special rights to homosexuals.
Okay, well, thank you. And is there a way to contact you personally, or would you
The
want
way
someone to do
to
that?
contact us, anybody who has a question can reach me at 574-220-1521, or they can send me an email at pmangan, M-A-N-G-A-N, at firstresponsedrs.com, and we'll be happy to respond.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking your time. I know you're a busy man, and God bless you on that.
You're
Okay?
welcome.
All right. Boy, here.